make sure you grab these safety glasses, and you'll notice they're numbered, that belong to your station. So when it's your turn, if you're in station 1, you're going to come up, grab station 1 safety glasses, put them on. You are going to be working on creating a Scribble Bot. Now there's a variety of what your Scribble Bots can look like, and we'll go over that in a moment. You can kind of see I have a few examples of possible body styles that you would have. But what a Scribble Bot is it's a robot that creates a motor circuit, and when you turn it on, it wiggles and scribbles, drawing its way around on a piece of paper. And you'll notice there's some examples on the wall of previous classes' scribble art, but when you put them together, it makes a nice big kind of cosmic picture. Now, when you come back to the tool wall, you'll notice that each tools are numbered for your station. So your station has a number, and you're going to grab the tools that belong to your station number. Now for the Scribble Bot, you're going to need a few different items. You're going to need your glue gun. You're going to need your soldering iron. You're going to need your wire cutters or wire strippers, and your scissors. And duct tape, number 2. And I'm going to go ahead and simply take these tools back to my station and set them up. When I get my tools back to my station, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the scissors, the duct tape, and the wire strippers, and I'm going to set them aside for a moment. What I'm going to focus on first is plugging in my soldering iron holder and my glue gun. To do that, I'm going to go to the end of the counter or station where the power strip is, and I'm going to plug them in. Now we're going to start with the soldering iron. Both the soldering iron and the glue gun take about 3 to 5 minutes to warm up, so we want to start by plugging them in. Now if this was put away correctly, it should be wound up around the holder, but you'll notice I'm holding it by the handle and I'm unwinding the cord. When I get the cord unwound, you're going to see that it pulls tight into the soldering iron holder. And I can simply pull some of that cord out, and I can plug that in to the power strip. Now when I do that, there should be some lights that come on. So you should see these lights coming on, and it means it's powering up and it's heating up. Now this end will heat up anywhere from about 700 to 900 degrees, depending on which point of the end you're on. At the end of class, when we're done using the soldering iron, we're going to go ahead and carefully unplug it by pulling on the knob on the end. And once again, I'm going to demonstrate this. We pull this tight against the wooden block. So I take that cord, I pull it tight. I then carefully wrap the cord around the holder. So I'm demonstrating it now. I'll demonstrate it a couple more times throughout the video. But I want you to wrap it around, pulling that in tight. We're going to go ahead and unwind it one more time here. And we're going to plug it back in so it's heating up. But so I want to make sure you know how to put it away and how you get it out. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the glue gun and we're going to plug it in. Now once again, the glue gun, the cord's been wrapped around the middle here. I unwind the cord, making sure I'm careful not to touch the end, because if it was being used the previous class period, it could be hot. But this part melts the glue. This one, I'm going to simply go ahead, plug in, and it will start heating up. I know the power strip's on because I saw the lights on the soldering iron. Once again, at the end of class, I unplug by pulling on the actual plug, and I wrap the cord around the middle, being careful not to touch the hot end. And then I take that and I put that away in the shelf that I got it from. But so you've seen how to get it out and how to put it away. So I shouldn't have anybody wrapping the cords up incorrectly. Now there's one other thing we need to do, and that is your soldering iron has a little sponge. And it might be a little dry. If it's dry, we use this to kind of clean off the end of the soldering tip. So what we do is we take it over to the sink, And we simply wet it down a little bit, squeeze out the excess water. Now if your hand's a little too wet, you could get a paper towel, but you're going to simply take this back and put that inside. Once you have your glue gun and everything all plugged in, one of the things you're going to need to do while you're waiting for that to warm up, one of the first things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to trade your Lego kit for a blue storage bin that has your period number on it. So you're going to trade your Lego bin with your instructor for a blue bin that has your period number on it. You're going to use this blue bin to store your materials. So if you didn't get anything done the first day, you would simply put your cup of materials in. If you and your partner got all of your stuff taped together, you're going to put those in the blue bin along with your motors and your stuff, making sure you have your entire countertop cleared. But you're going to simply put the lid on, and just like you've been doing with your Lego bin, you're going to keep that underneath your desk. So you're going to trade out your Lego bin for a blue bin. So at the end of class, depending on how much you got done, you're going to keep your robots in a blue bin. If you have a partner, you should each have a cup of materials, and your cups may vary in colors. You're going to get just random colors given to you by your instructor. Now, if you have your heart set on a completely different color and there's a person nearby that doesn't mind trading with you, that's fine. But what I do not want to have happen is having someone spend 20 minutes trying to get someone to swap their colors. You're going to be covering it with quite a bit of duct tape, pipe cleaners, etc. The color is really not that important. But you're going to get a cup of materials. Right now, I'm just going to build one, so I'm going to set that one aside. But what you and your partner would do is you're going to go ahead and take your stuff out, and you're going to make sure that you have all of your materials. So I carefully dump it out. So I just have my cup. And what I should have is 4 markers, and there should be a variety of colors because the more variety you have, the prettier your picture will come out. But you should have 4 markers. You should have a battery pack, a motor, a switch, and then about a 6 to 7 inch, roughly, little piece of wire. Okay, so you have a small piece of wire, battery pack, switch, and a motor. Right now, we're going to go ahead and simply set the motor, the switch, and the battery pack off to the side. And what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus on gluing our markers onto our cup. We are also going to be reinforcing and holding them down with duct tape. So if I look at this one that was done, you can see it has a little bit of duct tape going across the side. Could have been taped on a little better than what this one shows, but I'm going to demonstrate how you're going to use duct tape to keep that leg from falling off. I have a few examples of how you could potentially attach the legs to your cup. Once again, the glue gun's going to take about 3 to 5 minutes to warm up. So while it's warming up, I'm going to explain how you attach the legs. This is an example of all 4 legs are in the cup on the inside, and the cup is facing down. If you want the cup to face up, you could put the markers on the outside of the cup. So there's 2 simple ways where I could have the cup down, cup up. Now with the cup down, I could still have the markers on the outside. I'm probably going to demonstrate that when I make mine in the video. You also can choose to have your cup going sideways, and you can decide if this is the front of your robot or if this is the front of your robot. Either way, it could be the front. You could also put your cup more at an angle. Okay, so I have kind of a straight going cup, and then I got an angle cup. So maybe if I was building this one and I wanted to use my pipe cleaners to make a neck, it becomes a big giraffe, right? If I'm trying to make some kind of animal. But there's also other possibilities you could do with your cup. Now, if you wanted, sometimes people ask, can I put markers through the cup? The answer is yes, but you need to check with your instructor and they'll help you with that if you decide you want to try to have a marker kind of going through the cup. Now, the other question that gets asked is, well, what if I want to make a 3-legged robot and I don't want to use the 4th marker? That is fine. You just simply give the extra marker to your instructor. Now, you'll notice that I have tape going this direction and I have tape going this direction. So I have it going horizontally and vertically around the marker, and that helps lock them in nice and sturdy. It also helps to have it in a couple of spots. You can see in that first example I showed you, it only had one little tiny piece of tape. You want to try to double that up as much as you can and reinforce it. The tape is really what ends up holding the markers on. The glue just kind of tacks it in place. But you can see the same thing happened on the angle cup, right? Tape's going this way, tape's going horizontally. Because of the angle being a little funkier, it took a little more tape, right? So I got tape going horizontally, tape going vertically. On the tape on the outside, once again, tape going horizontally, tape going vertically, and it kind of works its way all the way around the cup. I will tell you, depending on your finger size, right? The tape, once again, going horizontally, then vertically it even kind of wraps around the cup a little bit. It's a little trickier trying to get tape inside that cup, especially when you get 4 markers hanging out on the inside. But so we're going to start with attaching our markers. There's a couple key things you need to look at though, and that is the cap makes the marker much shorter. So when I take that cap off, remember, my cup's going to drop way down. Just to kind of demonstrate my point, if I take the marker caps off one of these robots, you can see it becomes much shorter, right? So it becomes this height to this height. But I want to make sure I can actually take those caps off, and I don't do that unless I have a piece of paper, because your robot's going to eventually go and scribble all around, making a scribbly picture. I don't want that on my countertop, I want that on a piece of paper. So when we get to the demonstrating part, make sure you have a piece of paper. But be aware that your lids are going to make your robot much shorter. So when you go to glue these in, we need to keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by gluing a marker to the inside. And so once again, I'm going to move to the glue gun, not the glue gun to me. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to simply take the hot glue and I'm going to run some along the marker. I'm then going to go ahead and I'm going to put it on the inside of my cup. And I'm just going to kind of hold it straight. And you want to give it about 20, maybe even 30 seconds to dry. But so while you're holding it to dry, you can move out of the way and let your partner glue one of theirs. And you take turns gluing your legs on. Now, one of the key things is to make sure you're getting your robot balanced. So what you may want to do is you may want to take a note of whether something lines up with a line, whether it lines up with part of the word on your cup. Sometimes you can see it depending on your marker. So for example, if I had the darker Crayola, right, I can see it through the cup, so I could decide which height I want it to be. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a bead of glue along the marker. I'm then going to come back, try to balance it out a little bit. So I'm setting it on the ground, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press and hold once again for about 20 or 30 seconds. It's okay if your markers are crooked and they're not perfectly touching and it does a little wobble. You just don't want it to be a huge, like, inch off between your markers. Now, I'm going to put 2 markers on the inside and I'm going to try to put 2 markers on the outside. But I'm going to demonstrate how I would tape these 2 markers in before I go to do the outside markers. You're going to take the duct tape, and it's not using scissors, it's using your thumb and index fingers. And as long as you have one of each, you're going to be okay. And you're going to simply unroll the amount of tape you need. And the key to duct tape is speed. You just very quickly tear that duct tape. And if I want it into thinner pieces, I can go ahead and I can tear that into thinner pieces. Now, I usually just kind of hang it off the side of the desk, so I have pieces ready to go. But I'm going to probably need, those are about 3-inch long pieces. And if you wanted, you could use your ruler, but your eyeballing it is just fine. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tear, and I figure if I said 1 or 2 going across, 1 or 2 going up and down, I'm going to need at least one more piece. I'm then going to go ahead and come back to my cup. And I'm going to try to put one of these down at the bottom, and I'm going to kind of roll it right along the cup, getting as close as I can to the marker. It's fine if one side's longer than the other. Like I said, it's a little trickier when you go higher up in the cup, especially when you start filling it with 4 markers if you do all of them on the inside. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run tape horizontally first. Then I'm going to come back as close to the marker as I can and as flat as I can. I'm going to run some tape vertically. And just kind of lock that marker in as best I can. So I have tape going horizontally, tape going vertically. I would roll it over, do the same to the other leg. Now I like to use the thinner strips of tape just because it's easier to get inside the cup than if you have one big hunkin' piece of tape. I then once again would go ahead and come back close as I can next to it, run that tape up and over, and I should have some nice locked in legs. Now I'm going to put my other 2 on the outside. Now one of the things you're going to notice though is it really has a big gap right down here by my thumb because it can't quite touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little bit of my cup out. And what that means is I'm going to come back with a pair of scissors and I'm going to very carefully cut by the lip. Now, there's some times where your cup might crack. So you can see I kind of cut out a little bit of that edge so then my marker sits a little more flush on that cup. If you would crack your cup, the almighty duct tape fixes all. You'll just simply wrap a little bit around there. But so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim a little bit more out over here so I can center this a little bit more. Alright, so I like the way that looks. It's a little bit better where I'm going to get a little more solid connection. I'm going to come around to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing. So I get a better connection. I'm going to cut some of this lower cup out. Just carefully using the scissors, taking my time. I cut some of that out so it sits much more flush. Once again, I'm going to move to the glue gun. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some glue along the marker. I'm going to stand my cup up and I'm going to balance my marker so that it's sitting flush with the other ones. Once again, I'm going to kind of press and hold for about 10 to 30 seconds, probably 20 to 30 seconds. So once again, I'm going to press and hold for about 20 to 30 seconds. Then my cup should stand up on its own now. I'm going to do the same deal on the other side. So I'm going to take a little glue, run it along the glue or the marker. Make sure the marker's touching the ground with the cup. I'm going to go ahead and press and hold once again for about 20 to 30 seconds. Now you'll notice with the glue gun, as I'm pressing and holding, I'm going to point this out. Your glue stick goes back here and eventually you're going to see where the glue gun doesn't have any more glue stick to push down. If it gets to that point, that's where you simply just stick another glue stick in the back and it'll keep pushing the glue the rest of the way out. Once I've had these held for about 20 to 30 seconds, I'll come back over and I will tape them back in place again. So I'm going to tear off some more pieces about the same size. Once again, I'm going to tear them into thirds. You could tear them into halves if you want, if it's easier for you. But I just like to make them a little thinner just so they're a little easier to work with. And if you have some extras, feel free to share it with your partner. But once again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap that tape horizontally around the marker at the top and at the bottom. Notice I'm kind of bringing it close to that as I can. Re-push down that tape. I then once again go ahead and go vertically right next to that tape and that marker, and I really push that down. And if you need to use a little more tape, you can. Just don't coat the whole thing in duct tape, especially if you end up having to make a change. No need to waste all that duct tape. I come back, do the same thing to the other side, going horizontally at both the top and the bottom. Then I'm going to go ahead and go vertically. I need to tear one more piece of tape off. Going vertically. I go ahead and I tape that in place. Now, you're going to be wanting to keep an eye on if the lights would come on, you'd go ahead and clean up. You'd continue with the next day with where you left off. But you can see I have kind of a version of these two where I've got a little bit on the outside, a little bit on the inside. So it creates more of a diamond pattern with my markers rather than a square like these two had done. But so once I have this all glued and locked in place, I'm going to go ahead and set that off to the side, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on the motor circuit. And at the end of class, when it's cleanup time, you and your partner are going to put your Scribble Bots and any of your other pieces in the bin. So if it's the start of class and you haven't gotten anything done, you're going to put these in, but you're going to trade your Lego bin for a blue bin, and you will go ahead and keep this underneath your desk